Okay, Taylor, you ready?
Yes,
Do you play basketball at all?
I do.
So you get it, right? You kind of get where we're going over there? We'd love for you to kind of just own this and let your personality shine through.
Okay.
You just kind of walk right on over, put your headset on, and then we'll start, okay? Okay, all ready to read?
Yeah.
Basketball is more than a game.
Basketball
Basketball is more than a game.
it's more than air and a leather ball.
It's more than a backboard and iron rim.
It's more than X's and O's.
It's more than winning.
Basketball is about people.
It's about learning from the past and playing in the present for a future goal.
It's life.
Every pass
Every shot,
Every rebound.
is an effort to get better.
This game teaches us how to forgive, how to love.
it teaches us how to overcome barriers, not only on the court, but in life.
This one simple game transcends culture,
Time,
War.
Socioeconomic lines
and borders.
This simple game becomes something far greater.
it connects individuals. It heals relationships. It transforms communities.
it changes us.
It changes us.
Basketball is a game, and this game changes lives.
No story exemplifies this more than the connection between the greatest coach of all time and the young girl from Morocco.
Pat Summit and Destiny have met 7 times before. Tonight is number 8.
No one had cared about the game to that level.
Pat Summit is obviously a huge name in women's basketball period.
Pat is that icon.
She's 1,000 wins. She's 8 national championships, 16 SEC titles. She's 100% graduation rate. She's the banners in Thompson Bowling Arena. She's the one who the court is named after. I mean, she is Pat.
Pat didn't bust through the glass ceiling. She was a glass cutter. She just etched it out and then popped out a big old square of it.
Basketball changed my life totally from one person to another. Basketball is a relief, really. You can release everything and relive your life again and let everything go with every dribble you do inside the court. When I cast the ball and I dribble, I let everything go. Sport is really good for everybody and every youth to think about what is life is, what is sport is, to be away from this kind of situation.
Genocide committed by Saddam Hussein.
You can do ups and downs in life. You can win and lose. You can be alert for all the time. You can to shake everything out and to be removed from a really bad place. It's true, we become an unfortunate person to fortunate person. It made us to be like that because basketball is basketball.
For most of us, we see obstacles and we quit.
But there was a young girl in the Tennessee countryside who saw obstacles differently. She saw opportunity.
In the 1960s, women's basketball and women's sports in general were thought of as little more than something to appease young girls. It wasn't a sport as much as yearbook or quilting.
This was the world that Pat Summitt was born into. This was the world she would change. And she would change this world through basketball.
Farmers are self-made people. She comes from farmers. Her dad was a farmer, her mother was a farmer. All the kids farmed, all the kids had to farm. You hear stories that Pat grew up playing basketball in a hayloft with her brothers, and it sounds really quaint. And then you meet them, And I mean, they're 6'4", and they are this big. I mean, they're freaking huge. And she fought them. I mean, she played basketball with them, she played football with them, and she fought them hand to hand.
Pre-Title IX, pre-1972, girls and women didn't have equal access to sporting opportunities. And Pat, early on, experienced that. And she didn't have opportunities to play. But in 1972, things changed.
Pat grew up in an era where doing what she did for a living, there was so much social judgment. There was so much ostracism, so much just constant resistance. Financial resistance, no money for women's sports. Social resistance, how can you do that for a living?
This is the first time that women's basketball has been admitted to the Olympic Games. We see more two-handed shooting than I've seen in years.
Pat knows all sorts of forms of ostracism, all sorts of forms of deprivation, all sorts of forms of tough circumstances. War is the one thing she doesn't know and couldn't possibly know.
My family comes from Halabja, and we lived there until the chemical bomb in 1988. That day, it was really like a judgment day. Everything was really crowded, and no one knew what's happening, and there were people like a disordered time.
In 1988, Iraq and Iran were at war. Saddam Hussein of the Ba'athist Party led Iraq with an iron fist and would stop at nothing to defeat any threat to his power.
Shelling,
air raids,
and chemical weapon attacks were all part of Saddam's plan to end the threat across the border. But Saddam also saw this as an opportunity to crush an enemy within his border, the Kurdish people.
The Kurds are a people without a country, spread across the mountains of Iran, Syria, Turkey, and Iraq. The Kurds live as a part of each country, but share a culture all of their own. They have their own language and customs, and often find themselves at odds with local governments.
In 1988, in an effort to wholly unify the Iraqi nation,
and with his military might pointed at Iran, Saddam decided to wipe out the Kurdish people in the first ever mass chemical weapon attack on a civilian city, Halabja, where Hoshi, then a 1.5-year-old, lived with her family of 9 brothers and sisters.
Saddam told everybody to stay at Halabja, to not leave Halabja. In the checkpoints, no one let anyone to go out from the checkpoints. They said, nothing is going to happen, just go to your home, you will be safe. My mom told me, I remember I was washing the clothes with my hands in the front yard. I heard a really sudden bomb hitting and exploding. She went to grab my brother. Immediately, my father came out from the shop and he said, we have to be prepared, and I think this is the chemical weapon. We had a really big truck and vehicle. We led all our neighbors to get in.
يتر منيش حمام هاو قلت تشين بوجير زميني مال دراوسيا كمان كرويشتين يتر أيجي يعني بقلق نما كوتا حوشي أو مالو.
The Kurds in some ways were sought after by Saddam to be eliminated from the face of the earth, much like the Jews were by the Nazis. For Hoshi growing up as a Kurd in the north, she knew the goal of her own government was to completely eliminate her race.
Saddam always wanted to destroy Kurdish people, to genocide them. He created reasons to bomb these places, to destroy Kurds, and to vanish everything.
He always made a similarity between Kurdish people and rats. He was talking on TV, they can run, but they cannot hide anymore because I have chemical weapon. And this chemical weapon will make and force those rats to come out from their holes. So he did it. He attacked first some places out of Suli, then Halabja, then he made it a model.
Halabja was just the beginning.
For decades, Saddam waged war on the Kurdish people. No other site exemplifies Saddam's hatred more than Red Security,
a harsh prison and torture chamber in the heart of Suleimania,
where the Ba'athist Party used electric shock, beatings, and starvation to intimidate and suppress the Kurdish people. Life was about survival.
Things like sport were considered trivial.
This is the world that Hoshi grew up in. Through the Persian Gulf War of the 90s and the occupation of U.S. forces in the 2000s, Hoshi and a small group of other young girls wanted to play basketball.
After the invasion and after the bombing, we moved to Soleimani. Soleimani also had regime. He was controlling Soleimani too. Being a teenager at that time, it wasn't really good for us. From 2000 until 2007, basketball and all kinds of sport were really slow. In 2003, we stopped everything. They said Saddam will have again the chemical bomb. There were no school, sport, nothing. They knew Saddam will repeat what he did in Halabja. Everybody was scared. Basketball is a relief, really. When I have a big problem, when I go to practice and I catch the ball and I dribble, I let everything go.
As Eastern people, Eastern men, every time we see women, we just think that they have to be in kitchens, they have to obey, they have to serve, they have to do whatever men want. But through basketball, you can empower because we need leaders here.
She has seen some of the most horrific atrocities. To experience war, turmoil, violence, to be part of a lost generation, and to know that there were choices that she made to be where she is today, that so much of that was outside of her control, but she didn't let those circumstances dictate who she was.
Two doctoral students at the University of Tennessee were studying the relationship between sports and peace building. In their research and through a long-time partnership with global sports partners, they learned of a group of young Iraqi girls who wanted to play basketball.
They began planning a camp for these girls in the city of Suleimania.
When we first met Hoshi, it was at a basketball camp in 2007, and we got word that we were going to lead a camp. They expected about 60 girls from the Kurdish area to come, and they had 4 flat basketballs. And that was it.
We had 4 balls, and we were playing with men's ball, and they were really slippery. It was really heavy. It was just like made of sand. It's okay for us. We didn't care about the size or the quality. We loved the game.
Sarah and Ashley understood the opportunities that basketball could provide for these young women.
But how could they learn to play basketball without basketballs?
For help, they went to a woman who had empowered thousands through basketball, Coach Pat Summitt.
It was very natural for us as doctoral students at UT to approach Coach Summitt and say, you know, we're on our way to Iraq. Girls there want to start playing basketball. Would you have any extra balls you can send? I don't think it surprised any of us that she would immediately say yes. And I think for her, it was an opportunity to say, I know what basketball taught me. I know what I'm trying to teach my players through basketball. If I can provide a basketball to girls in Iraq, absolutely, they also deserve that chance.
Pat knew what it was like to be denied the opportunity to play basketball.
She spent her entire life pushing for opportunities in this country.
She knew that success would draw attention, and attention, opportunity.
Taking women's basketball from the collegiate level to the national stage.
No one had cared about the game to that level. She made it a national sport. She basically took male definitions of strength and male definitions of success and subverted them.
She's an icon for women in sport. And that's what these young women saw. They saw a woman who was successful.
Pat would use the court to mold and change young women. Pat was not satisfied with molding just basketball players. Her players knew her intensity, not only on the court, but in their lives as well.
There's no better example of Pat's ability to transform and motivate change than Michelle Marciniak.
An All-American point guard that was highly recruited by every major basketball program in the country.
Got Reed to spin, and here goes Spinderella for two.
Michelle was known as Spinderella, a term coined for the fast and loose manner in which she played. Pat's challenge was taking a show off in Marciniak and honing her into a championship leader on the court.
I loved doing things that weren't, as she would say, like just plain vanilla, like just plain vanilla. You know, I was some 31 flavors.
18, 19, 20-year-old people are inherently selfish organisms. They just are. Pat's job was to break down selfishness and rebuild people into more unselfish, collaborative organisms.
You know, she always would say, like, this is bigger than you are.
It was about a team. And I think she totally demanded it wasn't an individual sport, it was a team sport. And she allowed you to grow, but you did it within a team environment, team atmosphere, and that's what I love.
I cannot be nice to you until I see you completely take ownership of this team.
In 1995, Michelle led the Lady Vols to the national championship game against arch rival UConn.
Despite all the work, despite all the hardship throughout the year, the University of Tennessee's championship run fell short.
The disappointing loss captured the frustration between Pat and Michelle.
Sometimes I didn't like her very much, you know. She demands excellence. You know, she demands not even excellence, perfection.
UConn has won the national championship.
We lost the national championship in '95. I was in her house 2 days later, you know. And she was challenging me, didn't think I could do it. And that was her response to me. It wasn't, I know you're upset, I'm so sorry, we lost. It was like, this is your fault. You're a point guard. You need to take this. And I'm not sure if you're the right person for the job. You're a junior in college, you know, you just played for a national championship. That should be pretty good. It wasn't good enough for her. And those are the kind of things that, you know, was that harsh? Yeah. You know, did I like it? No. Did it motivate me? Yep. And so the things that she would say is, you know, you're going to win a championship. That's something you're going to carry with you for the rest of your life. You need to do it. So I took it, and I took it on. I took it to heart. And that next year was all about, you know, trying to get back to the championship game.
Definitely the leader of this team, and probably has become a better leader, Sherry, because she now realizes she doesn't have to do everything on the court. She doesn't have to.
You really do almost feel like you can't ever win, you know, but it's like that can't ever win is so much better than everyone else's because of her.
That's it. Tennessee has won the national championship.
Pat and I talked at length about the role for me on this team, and it was as a leader, and it didn't matter if I scored. It didn't matter really what I did as long as we won, and as long as I got the job done, got the ball in people's hands, and that's what I tried to do this whole year, and it paid off.
Well, she's been very unselfish. We have Shamik Wallace-Call come in now. It's a great player, get a lot of recognition, and we could not do that unless we had an unselfish senior class, and it started with Michelle and filtered down with Latina.
She would even make comments to me like, "You'll understand this one day." That was when we're focused on winning championships, and it's like, now I understand what one day meant. She's giving you a cheat sheet of what life is really like. And so she draws that parallel between basketball and life.
Pat Summitt could do anything she wanted to in the world, but she chose to make a difference in young women's lives through sports. She often said, "The basketball court is my classroom. It's just as important as any science lab, any law school. I am teaching on the basketball court."
A decade later, Pat Summitt would win her 8th national championship.
But on the other side of the world, girls were still waiting for an opportunity to play the game.
We had dozens of uninflated basketballs, and we're just pumping up basketballs as quickly as we can. And all of the girls run, and their eyes are so big, and they're seeing all these basketballs, which means we get to play. Like, every single one of us is gonna get to put our hand on a basketball. Like, that's gonna be mine. And so their question was, where did these come from? And so we told them, oh, Coach Pat Summitt from the University of Tennessee, she sent these to you as a gift, and she wants us to give you a message, and that is, follow your dreams. You guys are gonna be amazing, strong women. And they had no idea who Pat Summitt was. No idea. Miss Pat, it could have been you, it could have been me. They just knew there was a really nice lady in America, in Tennessee, named Miss Pat, who loved the color orange, and she sent basketballs.
Hi, I'm Pat Summitt. I'm the women's basketball coach at the University of Tennessee, and we just finished back-to-back national championships, and now we've got future Lady Vols that are here at camp. And I just wanted to share with you my excitement for all the little girls and all the women in Iraq that get to have an opportunity now to be able to compete in basketball. When we play basketball, it's more than just basketball. It's learning valuable life skills. And I know that you take some risk in doing what you do, but don't ever fear the risk. Go for the opportunity to learn and to become strong young women. We need strong young women, and you can be just that, and the game can teach you to be that. And so on the count of 3, go Lady Vols. 1, 2, 3. Go Lady Vols!
When Sarah came with her friends, she had so many equipment. Mostly they were orange. They were really nice color. It's really bright and it makes you to cheer. And when she showed up with the video of Pat Summitt, she was among the small girls. She was telling us about the future girls and ladies in Iraq. It was really good moment for us, all of us.
We handed out note cards, and we said, okay, write down your 3 biggest dreams. And one after another, almost 80 cards. And they had 3 dreams. 1 was to visit America. 2 was to go to an NBA or a WNBA game. And 3 was to thank our mother of basketball, Miss Pat, face to face so she can know what she's done for us. And so when I read through those, I said, we've got to make this happen.
Sarah and Ashley used their connections at the U.S. Department of State and the University of Tennessee to bring Hoshi and 12 other girls to the United States.
In the summer of 2009, the girls attended a WNBA game, took part in 2 Lady Vol basketball camps,
and finally met the legendary coach, Pat Summitt.
In the hot East Tennessee summer, Pat Summitt's basketball camp is an oasis of sorts.
Never more so than this week, as the Lady Vols welcome a team from Iraq.
I can't believe you all are here. You having fun?
She has people who want to spend time with her constantly, and yet that hasn't negatively affected her. She was completely open with them. She really reached out to them. She saw them playing. She interacted with them in down moments. It was really special, the amount of time that she spent with them.
Somebody likes to play defense. I don't have anybody right now.
And they responded to it. They really understood that she was part of history, so important to women's basketball here, and what that meant for them as individuals and them when they returned home.
It was really amazing. I didn't expect something like this big would happen to us.
I loved them interacting with different American kids. My first thought was, the American kids are going to be a little standoffish, and their parents as well. Totally different. Well, you didn't think about they're from Iraq and they're in war and they're in conflict. That never entered your mind. It was like, oh my gosh, they're from Iraq and they came all the way over here to be with the Lady Vols. What a cool moment. And there was no politics. There was no judgment. It was just basketball. It was basketball. You know what basketball pretty much is? A universal language. And these kids came over here to learn.
She made us to believe that Iraqis are not less than the others. She encouraged us to work hard and to believe in ourselves.
I think that's the biggest thing, that she truly cares not only about them, but to make sure that there is change, that every girl has the opportunity that she was given at a certain time in her life.
Their time at the University of Tennessee motivated these future leaders from Iraq. It was not just a few weeks away from home learning basketball. It was an opportunity to see what the future could become.
When we went to the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, and we walked through the hall and we looked at all of the faces of the strong women that have really set the stage and been the pioneers for women's sports here in the United States, I could see that on Hoshi's face, that, maybe Pat Summitt also thought it was not possible, but she never let it stop her. And maybe it's a stretch to think I, as Hoshi, could be like Pat Summitt, but maybe it's not.
Well, she had an opportunity to internalize those lessons that were important and powerful to her. And now she has an opportunity to turn around and teach what she can. She can really teach them who they are through the game of basketball.
Hoshi gained a new perspective on life and the overwhelming obstacles she faced.
She learned how Coach Summitt and other pioneers in women's sports had turned similar obstacles into opportunities.
In 2012, Pat Summitt faced a new obstacle in her life, the final challenge of her career, and she would face it in the only way she knew how, head on.
Earlier this year, the doctors at the Mayo Clinic diagnosed me with an early onset dementia, Alzheimer's type, at the age of 59.
I was in China when I heard about that. I couldn't work that day. She had a touch on me that none of the coaches had.
He called me, he said, "Did you hear about Pat Summitt? She's sick, she has Alzheimer." I was really sad because everyone needs her, like her girls, America, basketball, sport, people everywhere around the world, they need her.
I've heard that the Tennessee fans, they wear the Pat Summitt shirts. When she came inside the gym, they all stood up and they were kind of cheering, clapping, "We back Pat, we back Pat." If these guys wants to do something for Pat, of course we want to do something for her. When I wanted to do this tournament, it was just something in my heart. And a tournament like this is nothing comparing with what she's done to basketball. And we are a family of basketball. If we wear a shirt and we say, "We back Pat, we back you," this is just a small thing that we've done for Pat Summitt.
are doing this kind of tournament for her, it's just nothing to honor her, but we are doing a simple thing for her so that to know that we are supporting her.
Hoshi sees Pat as this person who's gone before her, who she could learn from. She says, when I look at her, I see that she changed a generation of girls in America, not just through basketball, but in society. I have a chance to do that in my own country.
My future will be coaching. There are no female coaches in Iraq. If I become a coach, I would be the first woman to coach.
When you go into Hoshi's room, she's got her collector's version of her Lady Vol basketball signed by Pat Summitt on her nightstand. And then next to that is every book that's been written by Pat Summitt about Pat Summitt. Every single part of what Pat did for girls and women's basketball in our country, she is breaking it down like it's film. And that if she breaks it down, then she's gonna figure it out and she's gonna be able to apply it to her own context.
It might be easy to define Pat Summitt by how many games she's won and how many championships she's earned. But it's always been about the players she's led, the people she's taught, the courage she has shown.
What is it like to see that?
Well, it's shown on this video. She has a lot of impact on everybody. Like the way she coached, the way she had impact on the players, like by saying sending a text message or having a letter or having a conversation with a player. Through these things, she changed their lives, and that was like a great thing. Like you have someone like that and has a great power on you. That's really great, and change your life with a simple thing like that. It's really great.
When I become a coach, I will become her legacy. I will step through her path and apply it in my community and my culture to raise a healthy and better generation.
I think to know what Hoshi has been through as an Iraqi, as a Kurd, understanding the context of Halab Shah, understanding growing up with 9 brothers and sisters, understanding that those opportunities were never there for her, and to watch her embrace that with such strength and optimism is powerful.
Sport is the answer for everything. Sport can bring peace. Sport can bring love for everybody. Sport can bring support, especially for making peace.
So when I think of Hoshi, I think of a girl that could see herself as a victim, could see herself as being lost and hopeless. But that's not who Hoshi is. Hoshi is a young lady who sees herself as empowered, as a change agent, as a selfless human being that says, all of these things that I've experienced have only made me stronger, and the reason that God has left me here on this earth is to make the generation behind me better.
We need someone to demonstrate love to us so that we can demonstrate it to others. And so I think for Hoshi, it was this unmerited love from Coach Summitt that was given to her in the form of a basketball. And that love is then the force that is driving Hoshi to inspire another generation and in many ways forgive the history that she's experienced. So I think it's a passing of the torch, and it's a demonstration of love that she received before she felt like she earned it or deserved it.
Right now, Hoshi is dreaming of what her country could become.
There is a lot to do. Civil unrest still remains. Islamic radicals like ISIS scourge the country. Women in general are given little hope for change. Violence persists.
But on a basketball court covered in dust, They are a group of young girls being led by a coach with a special connection to the coach she only met briefly in person, but who has radically changed her life and given her example to follow.
What will she teach them? How will she move them across the court and across the country?
Coach Pat Summitt's legacy is more than banners hanging high above a hardwood court where she won 1,098 basketball games, more than any other Division I coach. It is the tens of thousands of girls across the country playing sports, as if it was normal, because it is.
Part of Pat's legacy is inspiring women leaders in a country that has none.
One coach impacting another coach that will impact hundreds of young girls to be leaders.
It may look like little girls playing basketball, but it's more than that. These girls are going to change a nation.
What could happen when young girls are empowered to change history?
What could happen? Anything.
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 Three weeks ago, I put into writing my thoughts on what Pat has meant to me and the impact she has had on my life. This woman is a fighter. She's a competitor. She doesn't accept mediocrity. She's never satisfied. I've never met anyone like her. In her eyes, there was always more perfection. I didn't think I could ever get it right. You made every day the greatest challenge of my life. You made me start over every day, perfecting yesterday, never looking for tomorrow, taking care of today. Repeating patterns of near perfection, just when I thought I was close to receiving my pat on the back, you said, do it again. This time, do it better. Who is this woman? I thought over and over again. What I received time and time again when I was at my absolute breaking point was not a pat on the back. Rather, you hugged my neck. You cared. You spent endless hours with me, teaching me. You showed me you loved me through the time you spent with me. You said to me, you'll understand why I'm doing this one day. There's a bigger picture. Hang in there. I am pushing you because you can take it, because I believe in you, because I know you have what it takes. You said, trust me. I will not allow you to fail under my watch. You kept saying, it will all be worth it. I need for you to get through this with me. Who is this woman? How did she command such a presence in my soul from the very moment we met? A presence that only intensified over the following months and years. All the while teaching me the greatest lessons of my life. It wasn't about me. It was about my teammates. It was about the Tennessee program. It was about others. For a woman who has accomplished what you have in basketball, you had every right to display arrogance. Instead, you displayed the most precious humility. Amazing. Together, we won, and won it all. It's an accomplishment I've celebrated all through my days of life. Thank you for providing that platform for me. What I learned, though, is the one thing I carry with me as I remember you telling me that I will understand one day. Here it is. Life is not about accomplishments, wins, or losses. It's about investing in people and relationships. The greatest reward in life is a result of sacrificing yourself for another human being to help them become their best. I now see the bigger picture. So Pat, thank you for investing in all of the lives you've touched, and thank you for investing in mine.